Barber. My pronouns are he, him, and his.
My name is Anissa Barber, and my pronouns are she, hers.
Okay.
When seeking to describe our experience of the ultimate, we discover that we have only human words and human concepts that which to do it with. Those definitions serve us for a time, and they run their course. They disintegrate.
All human definitions, we are learning, are time-bound and time-warped. Human definitions die. Even the definitions we call God, and we are forced to put words onto our experiences. We have no other option. We gather seeking to express our experiences wholly, to name and share love, to find expressions for this moment, to point together and say, there, God is here, everywhere. Come, let us look closer together.
As you gather this morning, we invite you to join us in singing Bring Many Names, number 10 in the chancel hymnal. If you are in person, we invite you to stand as you are able, If you are joining us online, we invite you to sing loud and strong from your couch, car, or wherever you are. We welcome one another as we join our voices together wherever we are.
God.
God is not a being, but being itself. God is the ground, the soil of being in which our being is rooted. God is the timeless eternity to which we are attached. So if God is being, then the only way we can worship God properly is by having the courage to be all that each of us can be. The more deeply and fully we can be ourselves, the more God, who is being, becomes visible. In this light, we point to the moment burning in our midst to claim a hope leading us onward. May we go with courage.
God is a verb that needs to be lived. God is a verb. Liberate, untangle, wrestle, empower, encourage, expand, marvel, illuminate, embrace, shimmer, evolve, struggle, expand, love, be. May the peace that surpasses all understanding be with you.
And also with you.
To those online, we invite you to share this ancient greeting in the chat. For all of those in the sanctuary, we invite you to turn to the camera and say hello to all the worshiping people with us in the digital space this morning. For those in the sanctuary, you're invited to share this ancient greeting with those seated around you.
Good morning. It's so good to be with you. I'm Pastor Jen. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm going to share a little about the life of the church. What I love about this moment is it's an opportunity for us to think about how we might be in relationship and share together throughout the week into the coming space and time, knowing there's going to be several things listed, and they're not, all of us are going to do all the things, and that's beautiful and wonderful. But I want to say thank you for being here in this moment. I really believe the way that we speak alive, the prayers, these words, the songs, the melodies, being together through digital space, something happens in this moment, something holy. So thank you for being here and being a part of that. A way you can check in and share a little bit about yourself if that's helpful, or to connect to things, you can hold up your phone as if you're going to take a picture, and this will take you to a link. If you're with us online, you'll see that link drop in the chat, and then you can share whatever information is helpful. It's an opportunity to say, hey, I'd like to connect at another time, give us information, and we can connect out of that space. You could also call us in the office this week, other ways to connect. So a few things. Tuesdays, we share together coffee, tea, and the scones. Oh, the scones, a dancing meal. It's really lovely and great conversation. So if this is a time and space you're available on Tuesdays, encourage you to pop by, stay for 15 minutes, stay for an hour and a half, whatever. If Tuesday is not a good day in your schedule and you're interested in another space and time for conversation, or go for a walk, or scones, reach out and we can make that happen. So just let us know. We have these really lovely opportunity to gather during Lent. A huge shout out to Coffee and Conversations and to Cassy about making that happen last Sunday. We're going every other week. There'll be time to sit with Spong's words. Today is a meditation day. So Kevin from the Ozark Dharma community will be with us at 3 p.m. We'll gather in the parlor. You can come in through the gallery, and this will be a time of meditation. So it will be led out of a Buddhist practice, but not necessarily a Buddhist space, but just an opportunity for us to practice meditation and slowing down and centering the season. So if this is yours to do, hope to see you this afternoon at 3 p.m. Our flowers for this season are a little bit different. In years past, we've often had something we could take home. We're going to create beautiful bouquets together on Easter. So the gift you give of flowers, the financial support you give will help to purchase these flowers. And you can fill that out as we have before, in memory, in celebration, in honor of loved ones, and we'll get to recognize those together. And then we're going to fill the space with beautiful bouquets, some of which will be pink and blue and white in celebration of Trans Day of Visibility, which is the same day as Easter. So there'll be a plethora of different flowers, and then the bouquets will go to our homes. So a little bit different on Easter Sunday, but just wanted to let you know your gifts to help support that financially. That's what we're going to be bringing together and celebrating that life on Easter Sunday together. Also, music will be wonderful, fabulous, and there's another opportunity to contribute specifically toward music that will be happening this Lenten and Easter season, again, in the ways that we have in memory and celebration of our loved ones this season to help to support that program. There will be an opportunity today at the Glow Center. We're so thankful for our partners to hold and create this space at 5:30 this evening to hold the life and the tragedy, but to celebrate the life of Nix today at the Glow Center at 5:30. If you have any questions about this opportunity, you can see me or Ashley to know more about this, but encourage you, if this is yours to do, as a way to gather as community. Again, grateful that the Glow Center is holding this space and vigil for us today. Crosslines has asked for your empty water bottles. I know we used to collect these. Bambi has said we finally ran out. So it is time. If you have empty water bottles, as we do in the gallery, the shelf, you can just leave them by the shelf if you have any of these. This is a way that people can divide up laundry, shampoo, other things for the folks that access their services. So you can bring your water bottles. That's it. Wow. Wonderful. Okay, plenty for today. Let us take a nice deep breath. Let us center in this place. Trusting the holy is deep and as close as our breath. Let us listen anew for words, for images of the divine, of the holy, for something that might spark or resonate or ask a new question. Let us open our hearts, our minds, and our whole selves to one another in this moment. May it be so.
Excerpts from across our ancient text.
From the Torah, God created everything. Genesis 1:1. God who gave you birth. Deuteronomy 32:18. Moses, speaking to the burning bush, asks, "Let's say I go to the people of Israel and tell them, the God of your fathers has sent me to rescue you." And then they reply, "What is his name?" What should I tell them then?
The Eternal One answers, "I am who I am. This is what you should tell the people of Israel. I am has sent me to rescue you." This is what you are to tell Israel's people. The Eternal, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, is the one who has sent me to you. This is my forevermore, and this is the name by which all future generations shall remember me. Exodus 3:13-15. From the Psalms, God is my defender. God rescues those who have a pure heart. God is a judge. Psalm 7:10-11.
Your strong love, O true God, is precious. All people run for shelter under the shadow of your wings. Psalm 36:7.
God is our shelter and our strength. When troubles seem near, God is nearer and God is ready to help. Psalm 46:1.
God is on my side. Psalm 56:9.
God is the source of our blessings. 67:7.
We know our God is the God who delivers us, and the Eternal, the Lord, is the one who saves us from the grip of death. Psalm 68:20.
God is great. Psalm 74.
For the eternal God is a sun and a shield. Psalm 84:11.
God's faithfulness will form a shield around you, a rock-solid wall to protect you. Psalm 91:4.
The Eternal sustains all who stumble on their way. For those who are broken down, God is near. God raises them up in hope. Psalm 145:14.
The psalmist addressed God. You can see the dark, for it is not dark to your eyes. For you, the night is just as bright as the day. Darkness and light are the same to your eyes, for you shaped me inside and out. You knitted me together in my mother's womb, long before I took my first breath. You see all things. Psalm 139.
From Isaiah, God is with us. Isaiah 8:10.
The eternal commander of all heavenly armies, only God is holy. Only God should leave you trembling. Isaiah 8:13.
God is both wise and willing to wreak disaster. Isaiah 31:2.
God says, as a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you. You shall be comforted in Jerusalem. Isaiah 66:13.
From the prophets and other Hebrew scriptures. So here is what you should do. Go and enjoy your meals. Drink your wine and love every minute of it, because God is already pleased with what you do. Ecclesiastes 9:7.
God is your ally. 1 Chronicles 12:18.
The revealer of mysteries. Daniel 2:47.
God is on the move. God's splendor overtakes the skies. Habakkuk 3:3.
God is supreme in God's power. God is exalted beyond all knowing. Job 36:22 and 26.
Like a bear robbed of her cubs. Hosea 13:8.
My little flock, don't be afraid. God is your father, and your father's great joy is to give God's kingdom. Luke 12:32.
From the Christian scriptures, the home of God is with God's people. Revelation 21:3.
Your prayers Your prayers need not be labored or lengthy or grandiose, for your Father knows what you need before you ever ask him. Matthew 6:8.
I tell you this, whenever you saw a sibling hungry or cold, whatever you did to the least of these, so you did it to me. Matthew 25:40.
Before time itself was measured, the voice was speaking. The voice was and is God. This celestial word remained ever present with the Creator. Their speech shaped the entire cosmos. Immersed in the practice of creating, all things that exist were birthed in them. This breath filled all things with a living, breathing light, a light that thrives in the depth of darkness, blazes through murky bottoms. It cannot and will not be quenched. John 1, 1 through 5.
Now a reading to ground us in our tradition.
And spark our imagination as co-creators. Amen.
Good morning. I'm Tina Stillwell, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And at this time, I invite you to take whatever posture is comfortable for prayer. And please join me in breathing in the love of this place. When the Christian church asserts, in words attributed to the Apostle Paul, that God is that in which we live and move and have our being, Acts 17:28, we are saying that God is the life we live, the love we share, the being in which we are united. If we do not get this first point correct, all else will collapse into a theistic formula that dooms God to die. God is. Because God is, I live, I love, I am. Does that mean that God exists? I do not know what that question means. I experience God. I cannot explain God. I trust my experience. We pause to reflect on our own experience. We seek out God, yet God is not a being separate from the human. If we do not and cannot see God in the face of the hungry, the thirsty, the homeless, the sick, and the imprisoned, then we cannot see God at all. God is not an external being. God is present in the faces of the least of these, our siblings. May we see God. We take our experiences of God seriously. We long to live into them as deeply as we can. We experience God as life at least as we understand it, is a reality that emerged on this planet out of lifeless matter some 3.8 billion years ago. Life began as a single cell, which had the capacity to create a second cell. Then life began to express itself in a remarkable number of forms. Plants are living, insects are living, animals are living. Only self-conscious creatures can interpret the life that flows through all things, and which all living things can experience. We humans have the ability to relate and express that relatedness. God is the source of life. Love is the meaning of life we give to one another. None of us can create love. None of us can give love until we have received it. Love is a reality that relates us beyond ourselves. Love gives life. We gather celebrating and proclaiming this love. We gather yearning to experience it and share it. May it be so.
Thank you, choir. My name is Ashley Quinn. My pronouns are he, him, his. Robbie Steen turned around in the pew in front of me and made a proclamation. Like that. He said, I don't think God is real. I think grown-ups just made him up. I don't know who handed my fourth grade classmate a copy of Freud, but I was curious to hear his reasoning. Robbie had recently been made aware of a certain fabricated quality of another almost godlike figure prominent in children's lives in December, and he saw a lot of similarities. Behave well and receive rewards from this all-seeing, benevolent, magical, far-off grandfather. Behave badly and find punishment. I couldn't argue with the similarities, as Robbie pointed them out, but I very much believed in Santa, and so I decided I wanted to continue believing in God. And I felt a little sad for Robbie because I thought that he was probably going to see fewer presents in his future. What do we do when stories that we've been told about God don't seem to hold up to the scrutiny? Why doesn't all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful God allow a woman like Rachel Held Evans to die in her 30s with young children, or allow genocide happening in Gaza? It doesn't make logical sense. There's this logical or philosophical conundrum. How does sin exist in a world with an omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent God? The God in our ancient text, as Anissa and Jeff read to us, brings floods, parts seas. This God has control over the weather, but we now have scientific explanations for weather phenomena. God created the world in 7 days, or so the story goes, but we also have a scientific explanation now for the Big Bang and for evolution. For centuries, God has been the explanation for things that, sorry, lost my spot. An explanation for things we don't understand and can't explain. And it seems we lose a piece of God each time we learn how the magician does a trick. What I also see in these ancient texts is God described as a protector, whether as a mama bear or an eagle protecting her nest, a wall, a shield, or mighty armies. I hear God described as a loving and generous parent, a comforter and guide. Pastor Michelle invited me to preach last semester with the Ecclesia students for their Tuesday evening service, and we talked about how we understand God. I think Ro has a picture of the flip charts that we created. We just wrote some of what they were thinking. Their answers and our answers are every bit as valid as the answers in the Bible. The Bible is just written by folks like you and I doing their best to describe the indescribable. The students pictured God like the powerful good wizards Gandalf and Dumbledore. They used words like omniscient and omnipresent. They said they found God in unlikely places, even unfortunately, they said, in people they struggled to be in relationship with. In specks of light, source energy, bread and juice, a warm hug. After their win at the Super Bowl, quarterback Patrick Mahomes spoke of how God had challenged their team and seen them through. As I think about all of these ways that we encounter God, this image comes to mind from Harry Potter. I think it's the sorting hat, that the heroes can just reach in and find exactly what it is that they need in that moment, even if they don't know that that's what they needed. Sorry, was that a spoiler? I'm sorry. To people in exile or in captivity, the God they need may well be a shield, a protector, or even an army. But that might not be the God that we need in our country as we spend more on our military than the next 10 countries combined. To a child with an abusive parent, an imagery of God as a father might not be helpful. But for a child who lost their father, that may be exactly what they need. Each of these is an attempt of people to explain God. In Jewish tradition, not only is it rather impossible to fully explain God, God's name is also unpronounceable, literally and by tradition. You may have heard the term Yahweh, or pronounced another way, Jehovah. Both are attempts to put vowels into an ancient Hebrew word that is transliterated with just the consonants YHWH. The Jewish tradition is that the name of God is so holy, one doesn't even say it, even when reading scriptures. So instead, when they come across those letters in the Torah, they read it as Adonai, or Lord. If you're reading an English translation of a Bible that has all caps or small caps for the word Lord, that's a place where the original Hebrew reads YHWH. But because Jews never actually say the word and it has no vowels, no one actually knows how to pronounce it. Or what it might have sounded like when it was spoken to Moses from the burning bush, if Moses even heard an audible voice at all. Today in English, this tradition of sacredness around God's name is continued by typing it the way you see it in your bulletin today, with the G and then the dash and then the D. This is a practice I adopted several years ago when I learned of it. One of the Ecclesia students came up to me after that Tuesday service and asked about how I had written it atop the flip chart, and if that was to symbolize the vast unknowableness, the mystery of God. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it fit. And then it also symbolizes for me the connection, that thing that links us all together. We each have very different and very valid ways of understanding and describing God. My phrase on the flip chart, where it says God Play-Doh, that's how I think of God. That's why your bulletin cover is pictures of Play-Doh kind of creations. Otherwise, you're like, why this picture? There's a Jewish theologian named Schleiermacher. I just like saying his name. I won't quote him directly, but we studied him in my undergrad philosophy of religion class. And this is what I extrapolated and then made my own. If we think about creation as the Big Bang or the 7 days in Genesis, there was nothing and then there was something. But we know that matter isn't created or destroyed, it simply changes form. So there wasn't really nothing, there was what I'm going to call God. And all things now are a form change of God. So the whole universe is created out of God stuff, or substance. Whether you think of that as atoms or smaller than atoms, which means that I am God and you are God. So, like, God is the Play-Doh out of which everything else is made. And things really go best when we recognize that and live our lives with that awareness. I hear it in Ubuntu, which we've studied, as I am because you are. And I hear it in the story of Matthew 25. Last summer when I was serving as sabbatical pastor, I preached on that passage, which we heard a little bit of this morning. The parable where you hear people say to God, when did we see you hungry and give you something to eat, or thirsty and give you something to drink? And the next week or two when I was mowing the lawn and listening to Unbelievable on audiobook, he put it so much better than I had. John Shelby Spong writes, God is not a being separate from the human. If you do not and cannot see God in the face of the hungry, the thirsty, the homeless, the sick, and the imprisoned, then you cannot see God at all. God is not an external being. God is present in the faces of the least of these, our siblings. And I think that many of our Breaking Bread and Building Bridges, aka 4B's team members, without a word of prayer or preaching, we hope that those we meet may feel the love of God in our smiles, or taste the love of God in our tater tot casseroles, or be comforted by the warmth of God in our crisis cold weather shelters, just as we hope to meet God in them. Spong, in his book subtitled Why Neither Ancient Creeds Nor the Reformation Can Produce a Living Faith Today, asserts this thesis on God. Understanding God in theistic terms as a being, supernatural in power, dwelling somewhere external to the world, capable of intervening in the world with miraculous power, is no longer believable. Most God talk in liturgy and conversation has thus become meaningless. What we must do is find the meaning to which the word God points. It says what we must do is find the meaning to which the word God points. Spong spends 6 chapters fleshing out this thesis. I've attempted to connect some of those points here in much shorter fashion. I highly recommend reading the book. I know we still have several copies in the office. But he goes on to say, God is not a being, but being itself. God is, as he borrows a term from Paul Tillich, ground of being, in which our being is rooted. God is the timeless eternity to which we are attached. So if God is being, then the only way we can worship God properly is by having the courage to be all that each of us can be. The more deeply and fully we can be ourselves, the more God, who is being, becomes visible. Reverend Jody Furness-Wright has expressed to me a desire to direct Lacage, I don't know how to pronounce it. And I've never seen the musical, but I was listening to the big recognizable number from it, I Am What I Am. And I texted Jody and asked her if that line is meant to be a nod at all to the name that God gives Moses at the burning bush when Moses asked what to call God. And she said, no, not at all. It's about claiming self-identity. I said, but isn't that what God is doing with Moses? And it's also what a lesbian does when she steps out of the closet on national TV, what a drag queen does when she steps into the spotlight, what a trans person does when they ask their school counselor for a form to change their name and their pronouns. It's what black folks in the civil rights movement did with signs that read, I am a man, and what continues today in the chants that Black Lives Matter. It's what disability rights message when they say that we have not yet attained marriage equality because disabled folks lose their benefits when they marry. It's in the indigenous call to cease making their culture a mockery with mascots and costumes. It's in each one of us as we live unapologetically into our own truth, thereby connecting and revealing more and more of the God we're made of. To repeat Spong, the only way we can worship God properly is by having the courage to be all that each of us can be. The more deeply and fully we can be ourselves, the more God, who is being, becomes visible. During Life of the Church, Jen mentioned a memorial service this afternoon that's being held for next Benedict, the gender-expansive Choctaw high schooler who was beaten in their school restroom and later died the following day, who suffered for at least a year from bullies in their school and from bullying public policies, dictating, among other things, what restrooms trained students must utilize. Poet David Gade penned this for next. If God created the night and the day, and the dawn, of course, and the dusk, and the tangerine rose-pink sunset, and the infant bright of morning, and the deep amethyst twilight, then to perceive the world in binary is to forego the knowledge of the divine. May we all have the courage to make God more visible in the world, and may we make the world a safer place so that courage is no longer required.
myself too well. I told Jen it's not so embarrassing to talk through tears, but the snotty nose is really a problem. So today, I'm going to do a little herstory. On March 13th, National Avenue was the first church in this area to host a drag bingo event, unless somebody's been doing something in their church basement and not telling anyone. This after we did the queer revival, and I know that we were the first in this area, the only one in this area to do that. And at that event, some of the same queens performed that performed for drag bingo. So drag is often misunderstood, and that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about it today. Some people are afraid of drag queens, and I used to be one of those. I was. From the time I was in middle school, I was bullied for being gay, and I learned quickly that my self-preservation required blending in, staying below the radar. Look at me. I do not blend in. As much as I tried to stay under the radar, it didn't work. And when I was a child, my grandmother, my great aunts, my mother, my sister, they were my role models. And so I was much more comfortable, and didn't realize it, that I was much more comfortable expressing the feminine side of myself, what a high school counselor referred to as effeminate, which I took great, I didn't like it, I'll just put it that way. So when I got to college, I went to nursing school and was surrounded by women, and they taught me how to be fierce and express myself. So it's good in theory, but it got me chased by 4 guys with a baseball bat when I was 20. Had the windows shot out of my car when I was parked at a gay club when I was 22. So obviously Under the Radar was not working for me. At the clubs, I met my first queens, and I was terrified. Not by them, but by the attention they brought to the community, and thus to me. I was like, please, can you not go on television? But yeah. One queen especially took me under his wing and told me the places to avoid, the things not to say. The men who were actually looking to bait gay men and beat them up turned me on to the fact that the police officers were parked in the parking lot taking down our license plate numbers. He was a hero to me, and his drag name was the Tigress. He was as tall as I am, maybe a little taller. And when he performed as Diana Ross, we were all spellbound. He taught me a lot about drag, its roots, and the importance, because you see that queens were the first ones to speak up at Stonewall. So the legend has it that one of the queens took off her high heel and threw it at a police officer. So they still went to jail, but for the first time they said, we are not going to take this scrutiny and discrimination and harassment anymore. And it started with them. So drag queens have always been leaders, and at that time it was the LGBT community. That's all that we knew existed. So for trans folks, it was still so stigmatized that they didn't feel comfortable coming out in the gay community. And so we found that there were trans women who were actually doing drag so that their outsides, they could dress and their outsides match their insides, and they wouldn't get clocked for it because we weren't going to say anything. The Tigress also taught me that I could be fierce and beautiful and a force to be reckoned with. And in the mid-'80s, then, unfortunately, AIDS crept in. And it was like a thief. It didn't come in strong, it came in slow, and it started we lost some of our best and our brightest people and a lot of friends. We found ourselves alone. We didn't have a test. We didn't have a vaccine. There wasn't any research because they said, why bother, right? Because it's only thinning out the gay men. And on national television, there were televangelists who were saying, just ship the gay men off to a desert island, and that way you don't have to worry about them infecting the good people. And my response to that was, well, then lesbians must be God's chosen people, right? And that didn't go over very well. In 1984, we formed the AIDS Project Springfield, which is now AIDS Project of the Ozarks, because we all figured we were infected and we were going to die. So we might as well do the best we could to educate ourselves, have flyers, talk to healthcare groups and churches, and most of them asked us to leave. They didn't want to hear what we had to say. And so in desperation, we had board meetings at the Metropolitan Community Church and talked about ways to raise money. Washington turned a blind eye. Most of the churches turned a blind eye. Businesses did not want their name associated with fundraising for AIDS. And so a group of queens came to us and they said, we will do shows 7 days a week to raise money so that we could provide for basic needs, comfort for the dying, and educate our community on behaviors that they needed to avoid. I learned to appreciate at that point the power and the attention that drag queens brought to our community. And we all benefited from their lesson to be bold, to speak up, to not ever stop opening your mouth, to march on Washington, do what it takes, and someday, when the world figures out that this is a virus and it's going to infect everyone, something will be done. The drag queens have been on the forefront of raising money for causes that are now often including things like trans awareness. Because of the, we learned that early on that the trans females were often doing drag. We didn't realize that. So they raised money for all kinds of causes. And on the 13th, they raised money for specifically PFLAG and promo. And so you see, what we learned is that drag is at its heart an art form and a performance. There are straight men, believe it or not, who do drag. They create a character, you can make some good money if you're good at it. It's about creating a persona and a character that transforms you into one who can speak out, raise awareness, and fight the good fight, all while wearing high heels. It's transformational. So Dwayne, the tigress, had me, I agreed to do it twice for fundraisers, and it was transformational. Unfortunately, he grew ill with AIDS when I was living in Chicago, and I'd moved there after I lost a partner to AIDS in '88. And I'll never forget the friendship and love that he showed to me as I clawed my way out of depression. And when he died, we lost a shining star, and we lost one of our greatest and best. But a new generation of queens has emerged, and today, drag is thriving worldwide, and God bless RuPaul, is all I can say. Queens are tireless, and they've been raising money for more than 60 years. They're often tall, they can be loud, usually pretty funny, and sometimes it's hard to tone down because all of us in the community are used to calling each other the absolute worst names. Because the more you desensitize yourself within the community, the less it hurts when it's slung at you from people on the outside of your community, like politicians or school boards and the pulpit. God bless drag queens, some of whom may have been raising money for decades. We had one here on the 13th that's been doing this for 30 years, putting themselves in danger and on the front line, knowing that if they go down, they're going to go down looking fabulous. So thanks to Katrina and all the queens who performed at Drag Bingo, and there were so many advocates who were here that night, the people who protect us and will put themselves in harm's way if we're in trouble. The queens ended the show by saying National Avenue doesn't just open its doors for the community, it is a leader within our community. And that means we are doing our job to fight for equality, social justice, justice in jobs, and reaching out to those in the community most have written off. Don't stop what you're doing, please. Be your bold, fierce self and dig deep and pull out your inner drag queen that is strong and fearless and tireless in the fight. So that is my herstory for the day, and as a member of the LGBTQIA community, I say thank you for giving us your love, your respect, and the unlimited freedom to be our fabulous selves. And now I'm going to tell you how much money we raised for PFLAG and promo. The event itself raised $1,600, and the Justice Collaborative was going to match up to $1,000 for each, but then went back because the total was a little higher, and so they agreed to match, and we eventually came out to $2,400 for each organization, or $4,800 in total. That will be split between PFLAG and promo. And with that, today's offering will be taken and received.
Loving God, Father, Mother God, Lord, Creator of all seen and unseen. Dude, we know what we call you has deep meaning, and yet it also doesn't matter at all. We reach to you or inside ourselves to say thank you. Thank you for gifts shared. Thank you for lives entwined. And thank you for the opportunity to use our full, whole selves to help others be their full, whole selves in this world. We pray in gratitude and in all your many names. Amen.
We gather around an evolving home. At the table, we experience an ever-expanding body of human knowledge. We bring the best of what we know and have experienced. We see a growing capacity to achieve human insight. Our practice is born out of traditions that ebb and flow. We remember we step into a faith born out of Jewish roots, one that was created to break boundaries. We incarnated ourselves in a variety of forms throughout history, breaking open new ideas, unable to contain the meaning we struggled to communicate. At this table, we bring our experiences, our stories, our lives, our experiences of the holy knit one another.
Look at us, God. Our hands are empty, our hearts are hungry, and we realize
we are hungry for you, God, our co-creator.
We are hungry for a world where people are loved and affirmed.
We are hungry for the Spirit.
We are hungry for justice.
We are hungry for community.
We are hungry for celebration.
We are hungry for Jesus the Christ.
We are hungry for change.
God of life, today we remember that you are hungry too.
The home of God is with God's people. Like a bear robbed of her cubs, my little flock, do not be afraid. God is your Father, and your Father's great joy is to give you God's kingdom. God who gave you birth, God like a mother who comforts her child, God will comfort us. God calls us in our great hunger, God's great hunger, to this faith.
In our hearts, we celebrate Jesus' life and death, and life from death. And we proclaim, this bread will be for us your teeth. This cup will be our hope.
And so we do now what you did at the last feast on the night that you were betrayed. Gathered with your friends, doubters, disciples around a table, you took bread and wine, and you said that they were your life poured out in a new relationship to God. As we gather at the table of our lives to experience love poured out, let us receive the gift of God, the bread.
We are never alone. We live in this bread.
Let us receive the gift of God in the cup, in the covenant of the cup of the covenant.
We find Christ in the cup because we share it.
God, Spirit of everything, I am, Mother, Father, Friend, Creator, embodied in all people and all things around us. We honor and celebrate the essence of your unknowableness with the basics, the bread and the cup at the table, where all are welcome to experience you in whatever way is meaningful to them. Thank you for this gift of love.
thank you all for joining with us this morning. Thank you to our tech crew. Thank you to the choir. Jonathan, I understand, did the arrangement for the 90s pop hit from Joan Osborne, One of Us. We turned that into a poetry for us this morning, so thank you, Jonathan. And thank you all for being here and for helping me and all of us to see and understand a piece of God a little bit better by being who you are. Our song for sending is number 655, Community of Christ. To question, to take things apart, to put them back together, to be comfortable in the ambiguity, to trust in our experience of the holy. We take shelter together under the warmth of ancient words, not stuck in the past, words that come to life by our stories, with our love, with our curiosity. Together we tell a hopeful story